In 1590, an English relief mission finally landed at Roanoke Island, expecting to find a thriving settlement. Instead, they found empty space. The entire colony had vanished, leaving behind only the letters CRO carved into the bark of a nearby tree. Beyond that single cryptic clue, the search party found nothing but smoke rising from the brush and the scattered, sacked remains of the camp. Over 400 years later, we still do not know exactly where they went. Today, archaeologists continue to dig through the soil, mapping the area and outlining the few earthworks left behind. Researchers are still actively trying to piece together the fate of those early settlers. The fact that we are still looking centuries later points to a specific psychological tension. When a story lacks a definitive ending, the mind tends to loop back to the unknown, attempting to solve the mystery long after the evidence has turned to dust. But there is a sharp difference between historical curiosity and immediate grief. For the general public, a centuries-old vanishing act is an intriguing puzzle. For the families living through a modern disappearance, that lack of closure creates an agonizing, localized prison of uncertainty. Consider the 1998 disappearance of a young woman named Amy Bradley. She was on vacation, living a completely normal life, until she suddenly vanished and shattered her family's reality. What makes her case so baffling is the physical environment where it happened. She disappeared from the outdoor deck of a commercial cruise ship while it was at sea. A massive floating city with strict boundaries and a finite number of people on board. Despite that contained environment, the investigation was marred by highly questionable early decisions. Authorities delayed broadcasting her name, and the ship was allowed to dock and offload passengers before a thorough search was completed, letting the trail go completely cold. This creates a self-sustaining cycle where official errors and unverified rumors feed into each other. It effectively traps the family in a state of permanent alert, unable to move forward, but with no clear path back to a definitive answer. Sometimes a case goes cold because nobody bothers to look in the first place. The authorities completely missed the pattern. This diagram illustrates the mechanics of systemic neglect. When marginalized communities overlap with low law enforcement prioritization, they create a specific blind spot. Serial predators exploit that exact intersection to operate undetected for years. The Fox Hollow murders prove that serial predators do not always need sophisticated cover-ups. A systemic lack of societal care for the victims can bury a case just as effectively. Other times, the barrier to the truth is much closer to home. In 1961, a father seemingly vanished without explanation, leaving his children to wonder for decades where he had gone. Decades later, the truth emerged from the foundation of the building itself. The man was buried beneath the floorboards of his family home, remaining there while his children grew up and the community went about its business. Instead of a cunning stranger slipping away in the night, the tragedy stemmed from intense internal family abuse and strict social norms. The deep-seated fear of exposure created a protective wall, allowing a homicide to hide in plain sight. When a family or a tight-knit community is complicit, justice is delayed by the active, generational choice of what the community decides to keep buried. When the trail ends, all that remains is the physical space the missing person left behind. Walk through the home of a missing child, and you will eventually find their empty bedroom, completely untouched. Posters stay taped to the walls, clothes remain folded in drawers, and the room transforms into an unintentional, permanent shrine. Families preserve these spaces because changing them feels like an admission of defeat. A confirmed death brings a terrible finality, but it allows the grieving process to begin. A missing person case offers no such release. It is entirely open-ended, offering neither the peace of resolution nor the finality of a grave. That open-ended nature denies families the closure required to process grief. It forces them into a relentless, agonizing holding pattern, where tomorrow might always be the day they get a phone call. The only thing that breaks that agonizing stasis is time itself. As years pass, specific leaps forward in forensic technology often catch up to the evidence that was left behind. Decades after the Fox Hollow murders, advances in DNA analysis allowed coroners to revisit the human remains found at Baumeister's estate. By re-examining old evidence with modern science, they finally began identifying the victims. Yet these breakthroughs carry a devastating weight. They provide long-delayed answers, but they simultaneously force families and law enforcement to confront the glaring, missed early warning signs that could have saved lives. Revisiting these files involves a visceral toll. It forces investigators to confront the original failures of the past, while the families are dragged back into the raw intensity of their initial loss. Ultimately, an unsolved disappearance isn't a static event in the past. It is a daily presence for those left behind, a constant, heavy balance of hope and grief that only ends when the final piece of the story is found.